Hey everybody, trying to get the shadows off my face here. I had a beautiful conversation with someone today about marriage and how sexuality had disappeared in their marriage and how they were kind of struggling a little bit and how their partners traumas or whatever wouldn't even permit them, even within the course of a marriage, to have any level of healthy sexuality, which I think is a integral part in for everyone to have sexuality in their lives, to keep them balanced. And I'll go into some of those topics as I talk here. But we as human beings on this planet are sexual beings. We grow up that way. We were created as a product of sex. And it's a key part of our pleasure system and our balancing, and I would consider it as a mechanism that can balance us in depression and when we're in different states in the body and we can't regulate properly, or we're in a lot of stress. A lot of people are taught to go to pills and here, take an antidepressant, take this, and it'll help calm you down and it'll make your day less stressful. But what a lot of people are being shied away from is the fact that their own sexuality and things like pleasure and orgasm and bliss can actually create all the hormones that we need, that we might get out of a pill, without any addictive aspects of the pill or side effects or other things. So what I'm saying is that a healthy level of sexuality is really important to our balancing of our system and to feeling met and to feel touch and co-regulation of our system and clearing out things like cortisol and other things that our day-to-day work and things like COVID and other things have kind of stressed upon us. And we walk around in this state of constant tightness, and a lot of traumas are being created in our body, and a lot of people are, the last thing they're thinking about is sex, or they're in a marriage and maybe their partner has a trauma or something, and they're not getting healthy sexuality, or that stress of not having enough money or not being able to pay the bills or pay for food or whatever is also our ability to get sexually aroused or be interested or whatever. What is it? Maslow's hierarchy of need puts shelter and then food, and then after that is sexuality and love and these kind of things. So a lot of us are in places where we can't get any level of sexuality, or we don't feel like it, or whatever. And then essentially we turn off that mechanism that is healthy and allows us to regulate our system and create the oxytocin and calm everything down and get us in a place where we can start to manifest or create better. But instead we stay in a low vibration and we just keep bringing the same thing in, and it's not doing good for us. I really believe that healthy sexuality is important to everyone. There's multiple levels of sexuality. Healthy sexuality is one where you're sharing it with a person that loves you, and it's loving and it's sensual and it's touching and that kind of stuff, and it's bringing joy to you, and it's not creating perpetuation of maybe a sexual trauma or replaying stuff in your lives of not worthiness or other things, because levels of sexuality can contain that as well, where you're loving touching with the partner and starting to feel their body. Simple things like sensuality. Sensuality is feeling the texture of your partner's skin and letting that light touch go there and allowing the levels of energetic beauty to start to come back in. And it also creates this state where your body, you get grounded back in your body. A lot of people in stress, their spirit and their energy is standing about 1.5 feet above their head, and they're just constantly trying to escape their body because it's so bad and it's ugly and things aren't good and money's not there and all this kind of stuff. If we can get ourselves back into our body and sit into it, just a simple thing like having a partner massage your feet. Maybe some people that's not good or whatever, but take a towel or put some rubber gloves on or whatever, but massage their feet and they'll get pulled right back into their body, and then they'll have a a much better experience, and they'll know where the tightness is in their body and what's going on, and start to learn the effects of stress on them, and oh, I'm not even breathing completely, and all this kind of stuff. And then if you can start getting back into your body and then using touch, and then get to the point of orgasmic pleasure with that person, and that orgasmic pleasure will blast tons of beautiful oxytocins and serotonins and all these feel-good hormones into your body, even DMT, and people are taking drugs to get to the same place when they can actually get into it in their own body. And I'm also going to tell you that using your own self-pleasure can be used to get into a meditative state. A lot of people cannot quiet their mind. They don't know what's going on, and the mind is just going a million miles a minute. Things are going bad, and you just don't know how to get out of that rut or whatever. I'm going to tell you right now, go and give yourself some self-pleasure. A lot of people will be shamed at that or whatever, but go sit with yourself, go in a quiet room, and give yourself some pleasure. Get to the point of orgasm. Breathe deep. Feel it. Get the biggest one that you can going, and then sit in that pool of your relaxation and beauty, and feel all those hormones going through and the softness that comes back to your body. And you're going to find, if you allow it, you go to a no mind state automatically. You don't know that you're even going to that no mind state, and there was no teaching of meditation or any of those kind of things required. You are just automatically into that state after a level of sexual release. And then if you can share that with a partner, it's even better. And now all of a sudden you can play games and go back and forth and lovingly touch your partner and show them that they're important in this world, and be vulnerable and have deep conversations and all this kind of stuff. But we're in a world where that is all repressed. We're told to be shameful or guilty, or you shouldn't be having sex, or you're going to get an STD, or you're going to get some of these things that all just tell us it's not okay to touch ourselves, to feel good, to feel love for ourselves. And once we feel love for ourselves, there's this beautiful process where we start only accepting loving intentions from other people and all this kind of stuff. But all this focus on, oh, you can't touch yourself. If you masturbate, you're going to get hair in your palms or whatever. I grew up Catholic. Holy shit, it's like evil to touch yourself. It was evil to touch yourself for 2,000 years. You could be stoned to death. So we're all going to have a little trigger on that thing. But what's the most loving act you can give yourself? When things are going to shit, you don't have to go and find somebody or pay somebody to come and give you pleasure. You give your pleasure first. Once you get yourself into pleasure, you know what your body loves and what you feel, and you get past the guilt and the shame of that pleasure for yourself. That's a gift you can give every time. And then once you're in that state where you're feeling calm and relaxed and no shame and guilt about your sexuality, then you can start more likely to draw somebody into your life that's going to want that same levels of sexuality. And then you can explore that together, and then something beautiful happens. But I'm going to tell you right now that the fact that religion and state and all this kind of stuff represses our sexuality, it's for a very devious reason. And you may not believe me, but it's to keep us out of feeling good. And then they build all these drugs and medicines and addictions and alcohol and all this kind of stuff and make it legal and safe and whatever, instead of us going back to our own selves. So they've got us controlled, and you may not know it. I'll tell you right now, most of the people I'm talking to, it's like, oh, you're talking about having sex with other people or whatever, and that's shameful and that's guilty. And I'll tell you right now, I lived in a fucking marriage for 14 years of my life with someone that had a sexual trauma. And I was told I was wrong and bad, and I did it wrong, and I was ugly, and I was fat, and all these kind of things in this way of her protecting herself from her trauma. It had nothing to do with me, but I got repressed, and I had to figure that out all on my own. There's millions of people in this world that are living with that kind of repression and a sexless partner, and they don't know what to do with it, and all this kind of stuff. We got to change this. It's not, we got to fix these people, because you can't, but we got to get a culture where it's acceptable for us to search out and meet ourselves in our sexual need. And that's going to be hard. And that's hard as me as a Catholic even saying that. But if you can find another person, my marriage wouldn't have ended if I could have found another person in a sexless marriage where the woman wanted sexuality but couldn't get it. And then we could join those two families and my needs could be met. But in a marriage, I'll tell you right now, I can't have my needs met if my partner's not interested or whatever. And I've learned since then, it wasn't me. It wasn't I was doing anything wrong. It wasn't anything. It was a trauma that she didn't want to discuss. So what do? You live without sex for the rest of your life? No. That's not what marriage is about, but that's what marriage will expect it. Oh, my parents lived through all that. They lived in separate beds their whole time. That's just killing you. It's slowly killing you. And if you don't agree, well, that's your choice. But I've seen lots and lots and lots of people that went through that and they got to the end and you want to know the most promiscuous place in the world is an old folks home. I was so surprised to hear this. They are rampant with STDs and this kind of stuff because these people have lost their life partner and they're still sexual and they want somebody to share that with. So they share it with Larry down the hall because they got 5 years left in them and they're just doing those kind of things. They're giving up all these repressions and all this kind of stuff. And they realize that they went 50 or 60 years of their life without sexuality or other things. And they're longing for it now. So some of this may be weird or it may trigger you, which is my job. And I don't mind triggering people. But I will tell you right now, we got to find ways to get sexuality back into our life and make things acceptable so that we can healthily find connection with people and not make shame. Oh, you're awful. You're whatever. No, my fucking partner doesn't want to have sex with me. So I destroy that marriage and walk away from all my house and all that kind of stuff. Or I find ways healthily in this society where I can share sexuality with someone else in a fully agreed, fully aware, nobody's hiding, nobody's having an affair. Everybody's talking about what their needs are. And that's the key to a healthy, well person is to be able to have all those things met and needs covered and be healthy and have those oxytocin releases and have touch and have all those kind of things from a place of not shame, but a place of choice, conscious communication, and consent. And it'll change everything. So I'm interested to hear what you're thinking. Does any of that trigger you? Bring it up. Let's talk about it. But if we all found a way to get a lot more sex into our lives, so in a way that we weren't ashamed and guilty about it, the world would be a massively better place. And everybody would be more balanced, more happy, less repressed, angry, or whatever. And that's going to take this choice. So hopefully you hear me. It's not trying to force people to be a whole bunch of sleeping around and those kind of things. It's about choosing for ourselves and then being conscious about it, talking to people about it, and then finding ways to fulfill yourself and feel good and be happy every day in a balanced way for our body and health. So, love you all. Talk to you soon. Thank you.